Hey everyone, welcome back to the Cloud Mastery series. And in today's episode, we are diving into cloud adoption strategy. We'll explore the key drivers behind cloud adoption, migration approaches, common challenges, and solutions, plus different cloud operating models as well. By the end of this video, you will have a solid understanding of how organizations plan and execute their journey to the cloud. So let's dive in. So we are trying to understand the journey to cloud transformation in this video. The agenda would be key drivers for cloud adoption, why businesses are embracing the cloud, cloud migration versus cloud native. That means migration approaches, which approach suits your needs, challenges, and solutions, how to tackle common roadblocks, cloud operating models, centralized, decentralized, or federated, right? So let's jump right in. First up, key drivers for cloud adoption. There are several reasons why organizations are moving into the cloud, right? So, um, for any new technology to be adapted or a process to be adapted, it is always determined by key drivers, right? So, when it comes to a company or a business, first it has to achieve its business goals and how it achieves its business goals using technical prowess, right? So there are two drivers here. The main drivers would be the business drivers and technical drivers. What drives business to move to cloud or adapt to the cloud? If you see here, the key drivers for business would be agility and speed to market, right? They need to respond to the resource provisioning rapidly, and the agenda also would be to support faster application deployment and whatever the experimentation that needs to be done, that has to be quick. It should the cloud adaptation should you know um, provide the quick experimentation capabilities. The other driver would be the cost optimization, right? Shift from capital expenditure to operational expenditure, pay as you go model, reduce infrastructure maintenance costs. We already know how we adapt to cloud from a data center centric to a public cloud provider. This will directly help us to reduce infrastructure maintenance costs. I'm not talking about infrastructure cost itself, but infrastructure maintenance costs. And the other key driver would be to enable the innovation. So by adapting the cloud, you can access to cutting edge technologies, right? And the wide range of AI and ML capabilities, and you will have advanced analytic platforms for your data. To achieve this business goal, to complement these business drivers, it is driven by technical parameters. So what are such technical drivers that helps the organization to adapt to the cloud? The first and foremost would be the scalability and performance. So it should be on-demand resource getting. That is one of the major advantage of moving into cloud. And you'll have a global reach and presence and improved application performance. So if these are the goals that you want to embrace, then this definitely are the drivers technically to adapt any public cloud. At the same time, another technical driver would be the modernization, right? Where you transform your legacy system, thereby reducing the technical debt you have, and adapt to the modern architecture or well architected framework that is available with the cloud providers. And other key driver would be to achieve operational excellence, where you'll automate the operations, right? And also it will help you to enhance security features. This is one of the key drivers for your adoption, and one of the important thing is to mitigate the damage or disaster. So this is a key driver where, if you want to, if you are adapting cloud, definitely you would look for a robust backup and recovery services and disaster recovery mechanisms, which is built in with the cloud. So these are some of the key drivers where it would prompt you to adapt to the cloud. If you see the mind map kind of thing here, so if you see uh, the yellow marked text or the technical drivers, both are equally important, and the green marked text would be the business drivers, right? Yeah. Together, these drivers can transform how businesses operate, enabling faster growth and innovation. So, moving on, now let's look at cloud migration versus a cloud native approach. So, first of all, cloud migration is a way. Basically, we have we had five R models. When I say R, they are each the five R's are defined with its own definitions and meaning. Like R stands for rehost, it stands for replatform, refactor, re-architect, retain, retire. So it starts from 5R, now we have 6R, and we have gradually moved to 7R. So we will discuss what are those 7Rs in the upcoming slide briefly. But these are the main approaches that we have when it comes to cloud adoption, right? So the one of the approaches would be the cloud migration approaches, right? So lift and shift, as we say in layman terms, but it is also known as rehost, where here we are just moving the application as is. If you have a web application, if you have an analytical application that is running in your uh, VM resources or compute power in your data center, you will just move the same application without any modification into the infrastructure of cloud. That is moving application as is. You're just lifting and you're shifting your workload into another tenant. And you'll have very minimal code changes here, and it will quick wins, but it will have a limited benefits. You're not exploring or exploiting the benefit that is offered by the cloud. You are moving there because your application is too complex to change or do a code changes or change the architecture. So you just want to move to the cloud to take the benefits of low maintenance and infrastructure of code and secure tenant. So that's where you have a rehost, and you will have a re-platform as well here, lift and reshape, which is also known as lift and reshape. And here you will optimize, do a basic optimization for the cloud, and the moderation modifications would be there here, and you will have a better cloud benefits. That means if you have, for example, if you have a 3-tier application, you would choose your front end to use the PaaS services of the cloud, but you want to maintain your database approach and also the backend code as is. That means you just want to do a lift and shift over there, but you want to re-platform your front end. So in that case, you would choose re-platform as an approach. The other approach would be, it's refactoring and re-architecting. That means you truly want to change the architecture or framework of your application, and you want to take complete benefits of cloud IaaS and PaaS services. We will discuss about IaaS PaaS. I think we could have discussed it before, but nevertheless, we will see what are those in upcoming videos. But coming back to this, when you do a re-architecting, it's a complete application redesign. You will choose your programming languages, you will show how the application interacts with each other, what are the cloud services that you use to have a messaging, what are the PaaS services of you can use for your database, how do you secure your workload. It's complete framing or re-architecting your application itself. It's a redesign. You will have maximum cloud benefits because you would touch most of the services that would be offered in the department of cloud, network, and storage for your application or the software. And yes, since you're embracing initially, the investment would be high because you will be still in the know-how of what services that are present and how it would benefit you. You might also evaluate few of these services to understand its adaptability, and you might also switch to something else, but there will be a small trial and error as well sometimes, because there are a lot of services that are available with the public cloud, and it choosing the right tools or right services would be challenging initially. We might spend until we find our foot on the ground. So re-architecting would attract an initial investment at a higher side, but once it is done, once it is locked, eventually you will get all the benefits of re-architecting. So that is one. These are some of the cloud migration approaches. But what is a cloud native approach? Here, you are re-architect or build applications specifically to harness cloud features like microservices, containers, and serverless technologies. Microservices, how an application is categorized as microservices. We have something called as 12 factor app, which defines the 12 ways in which 12 factors which determines your application as a microservice. Okay, so the approach of building your application as microservice itself is a cloud native approach. That means you're doing a development of cloud. You're doing a development native to the cloud because microservices are very much compatible to containerize the application and also deploy those containers and orchestration Kubernetes services or any such container orchestration platforms as well. And it also encourages you to use maximum PaaS services, platform as services. For example, if you have a three-tier application split into microservices, so you have a microservices of a microservice with a front end, a microservice with a back end written into separate programming languages, and also you can choose a database which is serverless. I mean, truly it is not serverless. A server has to be there, but you will not have access. You don't have to maintain or access the servers. For example, Azure SQL database and Cosmos DB. So you will just choose the APIs for the database, and you will just start loading your data and interacting with your front end, back end with the request and responses, and also do the deployment as a container. So everything is kind of quick win packets of uh, uh, implementation over here where everything is deployed and maintained with the cloud. It's the truly cloud native approach. So the benefits for this would be, it's built for cloud scalability. Scalability is anyway one of the key feature where organizations adapt to the cloud. So it directly benefits you because it's built for cloud scalability and the microservices architecture, and it helps you to orchestrate your microservices that are deployed as a containers, and very much helps you to do a DevOps integration. All your microservices can be built and deployed using DevOps tools with CI/CD pipelines. And the problem with that is it's not a problem, it's a consideration. So some of the consideration we should keep in our mind is it is usually a higher initial learning curve, right? It also requires a proper understanding of how you build your microservices. The developer should have a knowledge of developing their application with the cloud native parameters and architecture. So initially the learning curve would be higher, but it would benefit you in a longer term. It's need for new skill sets. When developers are doing development traditionally, obviously, there needs a change or training for the developers to understand how to take benefit of cloud native development, and cultural transformation is required. Yes, that is understood. So these are some of the approaches for the cloud adoption. Which one is right for you? It depends on the time, budget, and strategic goals. So we discussed about the business drivers and technical drivers, right? We should know what are some of the drivers that is our priority to do on cloud adoption, and then we can decide what approach would be benefit for us. Yes, we would discuss about a detailed use case on how to approach a requirement and what kind of migration that we need to adapt, how to do a migration phase wise. So I've discussed all those things with the use case and also with the interview questions. But for now, to understand cloud migration and cloud native approaches, these are some of the key parameters. Okay, moving on. So I was explaining about 7R models, right? So usually, this is an image that is available at the Amazon AWS website, where they have this image explaining about what are those 7Rs that are available to do a cloud migration, 7R strategies for any strategy, right? Any migration strategy, or you we the common thing is, to do the discovery first. What is the discovery, right? So what are the current landscape of our software or the application? What are some of the components that is there, and what is the infrastructure, what are the license software, what is the operating system, what is there currently at this moment? That's a discovery. And then we will assess, right, how this application has been used. What is the number of requests and responses? How big is the database? What kind of database? It's SQL or no SQL? No, how do you want to prioritize? Is all the application dependent to each other, or there are independent applications, or how there is an interaction between the front end and the back end, if any? Are all the application are customer facing, or there are any analytical application which does not require simple database but do need a big data kind of analysis? So in this phase, we assess and we prioritize what needs to be migrated, whether migration is required. If yes, what kind of migration we need to do. So this is the phase where we do an assessment. First we discover, then we assess, then we will arrive at a point to determine the migration path. With the assessment, discovery and assessment we made, based on that we will determine the migration path. To choose the migration path, what we will do, we will question ourselves with the checklist or a questionnaire. We will question ourselves, right, whether there is a scope for our application to just, retain. There is no migration required. We will assess that there is no migration required. So we will just retain in our data center. It's not required because some of the applications are always used only internally, but only for a specific department, and you don't need to just migrate to the cloud for the sake of it, right? You can just retain. And there are some applications which are redundant and it is not required for your software list itself, right? Software landscape itself in your organization. So during the discovery analysis phase, you will determine that some applications are not required. You would just retire or decommission those. No need to move. And the yes, if those are determined, then other thing would be doing a rehosting. As we discussed, lift and shift is also called as lift and shift, where you will just manually install, config, and deploy your application, or you can also automate and use migration tool to move to the cloud as is. You just lift and shift into the cloud. That means from one tenant to another tenant, data center to just cloud. Once you do that, you will do a validation of the migration and you will do the transition and you will move to production. So all these three things are common. Where once you do a migration, this is anyhow you have to validate, you have to transition the application according to the approach that you have determined, and ultimately it goes to the production. See, other thing would be to relocate, right? And you will relocate your application and from to containers or VMware Cloud on AWS, you will determine the configuration, what has been changed, what configuration that has to be done, and then you will go for a validation and do a transition and production. Okay, so that is another approach. The other approach would be replatforming. So here you also do a lift and shift, but you will not do lift and shift for all the components of your application. You choose few of the services in your application to um, reshape, right? As I explained, you might choose your front end to design in a different way, might be a cloud native, and then you will just do a lift and shift. So here in the cloud, you will determine a new platform. You modify the underlying infrastructure that is required for that services or a bit of an application to run. For that, you can again, you have to configure and deploy. You can use a migration tool for the remaining application. You can migrate that, and again you will validate transition product to production. So, but some of the application might be, you might be running an what say uh, PDF application, right? You determine that you are maintaining too much. You have a lot of developers are there to develop that application, where in the market you already have an application to read your PDF files, Adobe Acrobat PDF reader. So in that case, you determine that you just repurchase or replace your current application with whatever that is available in the market. That means you purchase a COTS. COTS is nothing but commercially off the shelf product, and it will comes with the SaaS and licensing. If that would determine as easily maintainable with the licenses and also cost effective, then you will just repurchase and you will manually install and set up. Again, you will validate with your requirement whether it is working, and you transition your team, your organization to use that, and you move to the production. The other path would be refactoring, where here we decouple the application, right? We will see what are the dependencies. We try to decouple, we re-architect, redesign the whole application and the architecture, which includes how it runs in the infrastructure, what kind of services that is currently being used, how you can replace or use whatever that is there offered in the cloud. And basically, you're completely reframing, restructuring, redesigning your application, and you will do an application code development according to the new architecture that has been designed. And you will completely change your software development life cycle, and you do an integration of your application, and again you will do a validation. You will transition your application to the new way of deploying and running and move into the production. So these are some of the migration strategy. It all depends on what is your current requirement, what is your priority. It is determined with these two parameters like discovery and assessing your applications. We will discuss with a use case in the upcoming video. So let's move on. Please drop in questions if you have any, or how did you handle the migration? What strategy that you have adapted in your organization? So, what are some of the challenges and solution with cloud adoption? Adapting the cloud can actually present several challenges, right? But there are also solutions to help you succeed. So coming to that, the first point would be the security and compliance. So here the challenge would be ensuring data privacy and meeting several regulatory requirements according to the industry standard and also the domain that we are dealing with. So the solution would be to implement robust security frameworks, conduct regular audits, and adapt a security by design approach. The architecture itself would be designed with a security first mindset, adapting the security principles wherever that is required, and also utilizing these services on each stage of designing from the cloud provider. There are a lot of tools that are available, a lot of frameworks that are being available with the Microsoft Azure and AWS and GCP. We have to use right tools and right services. We have to embed those things in our architecture itself so that in initial phase itself we are with par with the uh, security so that we don't have any surprises in the future. So that is very important. That's a challenge, but yes, the solution is there. I mean, we just have to be aware of what is there and we try to implement those skills or knowledge gaps. So yes, since cloud is a very vast landscape and every day there is a change that is happening and new things are coming, it is very um, difficult to keep up with that. So that you always have to have a training programs and also a group you have to maintain where they always look into, they are very much proactive into understand the recent trends and learn those and try to help the teams upskilling, and also you have to partner with the cloud experts, or you can watch YouTube videos as this and try to fill those skills gap, or you can use hire cloud native talent. And cost management, right? So the cloud costs are can balloon, without proper oversight, right? So you should have that uh, knowledge. So it is best that the solution would be to adapt to the FinOps practices, right? FinOps practices is nothing but it has some guiding principles and benchmarks on how you can utilize the cloud resources and how you can make it as cost effective and how you can optimize your current landscape. So while designing itself, we should resolve a lot of these things with the correct foresight. But you have to adopt the FinOps practice as well to maintain on a daily basis. We will discuss all these things in upcoming videos with proper use case and examples. And we should also automate our budgeting and uh, cost control aspects as well to effectively maintain the cost or the budget. The other thing would be the change management. The shifting company culture and processes are always a challenge. So the solution would be to have a clear communication. You should have um, all the stakeholder engagement and a phased adoption approach. It's not like lift and when I say lift and shift, it's not like it will not happen overnight. You should uh, during the assessment phase, between the assessment phase and determining the approach, we should have waves of migration. You cannot just plug and play here. You should determine what are the priority, what are the critical application, what are the dependent application. If we have group, we have to put it in a waves, and we have to execute wave by engaging all the relevant stakeholders, uh, clearly communicating about the migration. So it's a step-by-step approach. So this, yes, change management would be a challenge with this, yes, but clear communication and if you have a strategy, it won't be a problem. So tackling these challenges upfront ensures a very smoother and more successful cloud journey. So moving on. So what are some of the cloud operating models? All right, we discussed about migration strategy. We discussed about key parameters of cloud option, but there should be some models, right? You cannot, obviously there will be a lot of teams in your organization which has different softwares or application have a different way of doing things. The requirement of each of those teams would be different. They want to use different set of services. They want to use different SKUs. They might need some innovative softwares to be used in the cloud. They might have a specific need, so it is not one t-shirts fits all, right? There should be a way where you handle such kind of requests, or you mitigate issues in a different way, the budgeting of each of those teams. So in order to do that, there are several models where uh, operate the cloud landscape within your organization. One would be the centralized model. In centralized model, it's nothing but you'll have a central cloud team where it will cater to the needs of different business units. If there is a business units only looks after credit and risk management, for example, take an example of a credit card industry. If there is a business unit which only looks in fraud and credit risk, then the requirement for those application which these business units handle are different. The central cloud team would help set up those infrastructure and help those development teams to have the requirement CLI. And there can be another business unit which only deals about how a transaction is approved, right? For such software, the requirements are completely different. Likewise, there can be a membership reward point application. Their requirement may be different. All these things would be catered by central cloud team. That is centralized. Basically, it's a single cloud team, and it is a standardized processes. The governance is centralized. I mean, the implementation would be consistent, right? And it is very easier to comply with one thing, but it can also slow down individual teams who need quick changes. All right, everything has to go to central cloud team and get it approved, and they have to verify whether it is applicable for everyone, it is beneficial for everyone. They have to make a change in this uh, centralized principles that they have for their organization. So that is centralized model. The other would be the decentralized model. Decentralized model will have an autonomous team. That means each department or team manages its own cloud resources. It will give a greater autonomy, and the decision making is faster because it is very local. The implementation is faster as well, and it focuses on innovation because each business unit has their own autonomous cloud spends, autonomous budget, and the way of doing things, right? They don't have to report to anybody except for budgeting, but they can pretty much do innovation without waiting for somebody, without having any dependency with any other teams, and they can implement faster as well. So these are some of the pros, but the cons would be the standard would be inconsistent between, because each has their greater autonomy. There will be a risk of having inconsistent standards, and there can also be a potential duplication of effort with this model. This the picture below here is an example that I had taken from Microsoft Azure. And the other approach would be operating model would be federated or enterprise model. Here, there will be a balance between central governance and local autonomy, right? See here. So there are multiple layers here. That means it is a shared best practices. The best practices, there can be a shared document or shared COE. I mean, there will be a COE team who monitors and who helps people with the best practices, a set of standard while creating a project. For example, if you have heard about Azure Lighthouse or AWS Control Tower, it helps you to create a predetermined product where if any team wants to request or deploy their application in the cloud, they will just simply request for the cloud resources, and AWS Control Tower would help the team or the operation team through Control Tower would create a product for the team where it involves the number of users with admin privileges, the normal developer users, along with the set of pre-approved services and applications to start with. And you can just, it's kind of a boiler template where you can use to build upon. And all the security consideration, compliances, controls, everything would be inbuilt with that product. So in that way, it is in compliance with your enterprise policy. At the same time, you will have your own product where one packet of product within the cloud account, individual account, where you can do a deployment according to your application. You can do the innovation, you can do a lot of things. You can define the environment. So we will discuss about the enterprise operations separately with the help of how do we arrive at designing a landing zones. But this is basically a model, one of the models uh, that we have. But the difficult here would be we have it is very much required to have clear policies and coordination to avoid confusion. Initially, to set up these things, it takes time and it needs a lot of communication with different stakeholders because we are trying to create a t-shirt that fits all with the policies here. So choosing the right models, it always depends on your organization sizes, the structure and strategic objectives, right? We will discuss all these things with an example. So moving on, what are some of the uh, key success factors to wrap up, right? Here are a few key success factors for a smooth cloud adoption journey. The first and foremost thing would be to have a clear strategy. This itself determines what kind of migration approach that you need to have, what kind of models, adoption models that you need to have. And it also at some level determines the drivers as well, business or technical drivers. So your strategy will always have to be aligned with your business goals. It should always have a measurable objectives and realistic timelines. All right. And you should have a strong governance. You have to define the policies, have a risk management in place, and compliance frameworks in earlier stages itself. Of course, people and culture invest in skills development, and we have to foster a culture open to change. Change is everything, change is the only constant. Technology foundation, we have to establish robust architecture standards, security frameworks, and automation best practices, right? So thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, right, please like, share and comment below. In our next episode, we will dive deeper into designing cloud solution using the well architected framework. So subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay updated. See you next time.